they also mentioned the political problems related to refugees. And, well, we didn't see the relation between the fact that an environmental standard would reduce political tensions. All were not created. We don't see that the floods created by climate change are directly related to environmental standards. They are more related to the lack of infrastructure in developing nations, which brings me to my argument, my extension argument, which is that if developed nations care about the environment in developing nations, they should first put money directly in the environmental infrastructure. What lacks in developing nations are not standards. It's real infrastructure. Developing nations do not have wastewater treatment plants. They do not have proper way to manage their waste, their solid waste. They do not have filters for their factories. So rather than just cutting money from AIDS or not making it get to developing nations just because of environmental standards is a waste of resources and makes the developing and developed countries not reach their goals and miss many opportunities. Yes?
We have to highlight that it's two different, developing with undeveloping. We are not creating a new kind of country. For example, developing, it's Uganda. Undeveloped is, for example, IT. There are two different economies, and we can secure for the same economy for that.
Thank you. So I understand that there are countries who do not deserve environmental standards and who do not deserve clean water, while others who are on their way to be developed deserve that and therefore deserves our funding. And others should just go back and... Thank you. So to summarize the situation, they think that linking aid to standards will solve the global environmental crisis. We think that we should put aid on environmental infrastructure and not make more regulations in that direction. That's what matters. They say that putting more standards will help the economies in developing nations, while we know that Western countries, developed nations, for 200 years they achieved their industrial revolution, they achieved their development without having standards. Standards started to appear in the 1950s and 60s and 70s, when they had achieved all their development. On the opposite side, bringing now environmental standards would hinder the efforts of development and would make funds that were allocated for a certain purpose that might not be environment, as you were stating always, that might be poverty, that might be education. It will hinder those targets by adding bureaucratic procedure, by slowing down the mechanisms, and by wasting resources, because to put standards on a certain project or a certain country, you have to bring monitoring, to do studies, environmental impact, to bring experts. This is a waste of resources that developing nations cannot afford now, and developed nations would be losing their real focus of their fundings. So just to end that, we think that the real matter is that environmental issues should be considered as real development issues and allocated funds in themselves without caring of bringing additional constraints on the mechanisms of transfer of money from developed to developing nations. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm the first speaker of the closing government. I'm going to begin with the refutation of the opposite team. I would like to highlight something that they said is they should find funds for the poverty and for the education rather than funds for the environmental standard. And which a huge problem that we face, that is the environmental and the climate change. We should begin by solving the problem of saving life to let them after educate and think about the social things. So we begin with saving life of the people, and after think about the social things. And we said about it, they don't have infrastructure and a new technology used in the industry, like the filters. And when they are going to put the waste solid from the industrial things that they use, so they should think about the solution for this stuff, because they invest in this country, and when they invest in this country, they increase the pollution of this country, and increasing the pollution of this country, they increase the pollution in around all the world. So it's a global climate change crisis facing all the world from this problem that appear in each country. No, thank you. And after, when they said the funding money, it will be used for a political. They take the money. But I think the funding that will be by the country to do the environmental project, it will be by the UN organization like ESCWA, FAO, and a lot of pollution. No, thank you. So they control all the money, and they control all the projects. They are going. No, thank you. So they are going to control everything, and they control all the projects that they are going to do, and the result they are coming from. And rebuilding, second, I'm going to rebuild. About the first government say that it's climate change. Climate change they face a big problem by all the investment that they do. Environmental, they cause side effects for the environmental, and so we should think in a global way to solve this problem. Second, it harm life of people. Because of this pollution that they cause, and when they harm the life of people on this country, on the undeveloped country, so it will be also in the developing country by expanded the climate change, the crisis, and the pollution. It can be because it's a problem on the earth and not in each country. And also I would like to say about when they don't care, when this developed country they're going to invest in the undeveloped country, so they should always think in a future thinking by the side effects. For example, if they do have a lot of pollution in this country, for example, they take all the resources from this country, and after we have a bad economy, no resources, so it's effect also in the developed country. They don't have no thank you. They don't have can do a new project on this country, so they should give their money